The Ranchers began development back in 2016. 10 years later, it has finally reached early access. It was officially announced in 2021, and with the game now available to the public, I jumped in to see what 10 years of development actually produced. I play new releases almost every week and share my experience with them here. If you enjoy discovering new games and seeing what they're actually like, consider subscribing. Once the intro was over, I was given my own piece of land and a series of quests designed to teach me how the ranching systems work. But before I could plant crops, build a home, or buy animals, I had to learn the basics, starting with gathering materials. Early on, the main materials I could collect were wood, stone, and hay. I got wood by chopping down trees, stone by breaking rocks, and hay by cutting bushes. Once I found my first set of tools, I could begin gathering all three. Every swing of a tool used energy, which I could restore by eating food or going to sleep. Once a tree, rock, or bush broke apart, I had to press E to collect each individual piece. Personally, I would have preferred being able to walk over the materials and collect everything automatically, but it is what it is. Building up stacks of wood, stone, and hay was important because, like most farming games, I needed specific amounts of each material to craft tools, structures, and other useful items. The gathering itself was simple and easy to understand, but collecting every piece individually made the process feel slightly more tedious than it needed to be. Next, I was introduced to contracts, which allow the ranch to access utilities like water and electricity. One of the quests sent me into the city to visit the city hall, where I met Victor, the mayor. This is where I could purchase my first contract, along with any future contracts I would need for the ranch. After buying the electricity contract, power was finally connected to my property, giving me access to the workbench and allowing me to start crafting. With the workbench unlocked, I gained access to the crafting recipes I needed to build my first home. I could craft a foundation, walls, windows, and doors, along with a bed, so I had somewhere to sleep at the end of each day. The building system itself was straightforward and easy to understand. I didn't run into any real problems while crafting or placing the pieces, and the grid and snapping system worked reliably. For any early building system, it felt smooth and did exactly what I needed it to do. Once I finished building my first home and completed the quest, the game gave me a new objective: have at least 10,500 cash or gold or whatever this is in my account. This became a major turning point because the guided quest essentially stopped and I was left to figure out how to earn the money on my own. From here, I was no longer just following instructions. I was finally free to start playing the game at my own pace and deciding how I wanted to develop the ranch. So I got to work. I tilled more soil, planted more seeds, watered the crops, sold them, and used the money to buy even more seeds. Then I repeated the process. The loop was simple, but it was also fun. Up to this point, the game had been a pretty straightforward farming experience. But while making one of my regular trips between the ranch and the city, I accidentally discovered an entirely different side of the game. While I was spending most of my time planting crops and making trips back and forth between the ranch and the city, I was usually driving my car. During one of those trips, I opened the menu, and while I wasn't paying attention, my car slammed directly onto a police vehicle. That accident gave me a wanted level and immediately triggered a police chase. Officers started pursuing me through the city and drones were sent after me. Up until this point, I had been playing a fairly normal farming game. Now, completely by accident, I had discovered its GTA style side. Eventually, one of those police chases ended with me getting caught and sent to jail. After paying the fines, I had so little money left that my balance actually went into the negative. The timing couldn't have been worse. I had already sold most of what I had and used the money to buy more seeds. So now I was stuck waiting for my crops to finish growing before I could sell anything else. While I waited, I started looking for another way to make money outside of farming. The first option I tried was the taxi system. You can rent a taxi and drive passengers from one location to another, but the amount of money I earned was so small that it didn't really feel worth the time. Then I thought stealing cars might be another way to earn money. The game lets you break into vehicles, hack them, avoid the police, and even repaint them so they are no longer recognized as stolen. But you can't sell them, you can't dismantle them, or use those parts for crafting. So even though the game has taxi jobs, vehicle theft, police chases, wanted levels, and an entire city to drive around, none of those systems really helped me progress. I was still better off staying on the ranch, growing crops, and using the train whenever I needed to get into the city. At this point, that entire side of the game felt more like a collection of extra mechanics than something that actually added value to the ranching experience. And that contrast made the farming side of the game stand out even more, because whenever I stayed on the ranch, I thought the experience was great. I had very few issues with it. There was plenty of upgrades to work towards, including different blueprints, farm animals, and other equipment that could make the ranch more efficient and help me earn even more money. That side of the game felt well designed. The progression was clear, the rewards gave me reasons to keep expanding, and almost everything I did on the ranch contributed to improving it. The GTA style side of the game is probably where I felt the ranchers lacked the most depth. On the surface, it makes the game seem much bigger because you have police chases, wanted levels, stolen cars, taxi jobs, and an entire city to drive around. But the more time I spent with those systems, the more I realized that almost none of them had any real effect on my progress. Stealing a car didn't help me build a ranch, driving a taxi barely made enough money to matter, getting into police chases was entertaining for a little while, but there was no meaningful reward tied to it. So even though the game technically gives you more things to do, a lot of those activities felt separated from the main progression. At the end of the day, I was still better off staying on the ranch, growing crops, buying upgrades, and improving the farm. I'm curious to see what you guys think, or if there's something that I missed. If there is, please let me know in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.